Tuukka Rask earned his first win of the season. David Pastrnak recorded a shutout. Brad Marchand was snubbed from the NHL All-Star Game, and Matt Grzelcyk finds himself in COVID-19 protocols. All that and more on today's episode of Locked On Boston Bruins.
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things Spoke B, as well as take a look around the NHL. Today is Friday, January 14th, and I want to thank you so much for making Locked On Boston Bruins your first listen every day. The podcast is free and available on all podcast platforms, as well as on YouTube. So please do smash that subscribe button on both the audio and video parts of the podcast. Each new episode will be automatically added to your feed for you to download, listen, and enjoy. If you could also rate and review, that would be very much appreciated. On Spotify now, you can add a star rating and a review. So please do so there if you use Spotify. If you're on social media, you can find the podcast at Locked NHL Bruins on both Twitter and Instagram. And you can find me, my dad jokes, and hockey tweets at Ian C. McLaren. Now, you may be able to hear some Fortnite yelling in the background. Thankfully, today is the final day of online learning here in Ontario, and the boys will be back at school in person on Monday safely. And hopefully everything goes well there. But fewer appearances by Henry, fewer screams in the background. Let's go, lads, is something that I've been hearing a lot lately on the Fortnite. And I'm excited to get back to somewhat normal life around here. The Bruins back to somewhat normal life as well with the return of Tuukka Rask. Right off the top, awarding Rask the Big Bear of the Night award for earning the win last night against the Philadelphia Flyers. It was a bit dicey in the third period as the Bruins really allowed the Flyers to do their best to tie the game. Bruins were outshot 12-7 in the final frame. They created a 5-on-3 situation by putting the puck over the glass twice within the span of a minute and 10 seconds, which was, very discouraging. But the Bruins were able to keep it locked down, giving Tuukka Rask the win in his first start of the season. He stopped 25 of 27 shots against. And, Tuukka's not a super emotional guy, but he did admit that this one was an emotional night. It was very much out of the normal, he said, the way he was feeling before the game. Not used to this game day routine. Been many months since the last game. So, backing up the night before against Montreal certainly helped. Kind of got the experience of the game day. And then today, playing, it was great to see the fans support. And he called Bruins fans the best fans. Bruce Cassidy said, in terms of tracking the puck and playing the game, stopping the puck, it looked like the old Tuukka. Talking to him after, no issues with the surgery, maybe a little bit sore in spots, but that's just from not playing for a while. That would happen to anybody. Conditioning was pretty good. He got tested late, spent a lot of time in the Bruins end, the puck did, with the penalties, and then they pulled the goalie with like 3 minutes to go. But good for him. Glad to see him come through. The guys played hard for him, especially when they needed to down the stretch with that 5-on-3, clearing the front of the net, doing a pretty good job in front there to allow Tuukka to cover pucks and get them out of harm's way. He didn't have a ton of work in terms of volume. I think the Flyers went at least 8 minutes without a shot. You have to stay sharp. And then all of a sudden, a good one comes at you. Kind of the way the Bruins have been playing. Pretty good at limiting volume and D-zone stuff for the most part to try to keep it outside. But then there was the penalty kills, mismanaged pucks that come up from time to time. And Tuukka, stood firm. That's what goalies do. That's how they win. That's winning hockey. Make sure it's a momentum shifter for our team. And Tuukka certainly did that tonight. Obviously, it was the second of a back-to-back situation. So Tuukka was expecting fatigue for the guys, going to be some errors. A goalie's job is to back them up in those situations. And, he got a couple breakaways against. It was able to stop those. He did say that he felt 100% and 100% difference from last season. He said even though the injury wasn't killing him in every single game last year, it's always in the back of your head that certain movements are limited. And now he doesn't have that. 2 or 3 kick saves that he made pain-free. There was a wraparound in the third where he kind of extended. Stuff like that last year was totally out of the question. And it was great to feel that he had the ability to move both ways. He said the first period wasn't the easiest when it came to getting into the rhythm because, again, so long into the game before he saw his first shot. But from a goaltending perspective, it felt good to actually get those shots on net and to get back into it. So Tuukka Rask earning the big bear of the night in the win. And hopefully there's more to come. It's great to see the fan support for Tuukka Rask. He and Ullmark had a nice little celebration afterwards, not the typical Ullmark Swayman hug. And that should be reserved for them. And it will be back at some point. But again, like I've been saying, it's a huge bonus for the Boston Bruins to be able to put out a goalie duo of Rask and Ullmark, an elite duo, and only $6 million against the cap. I know a lot of people have been saying, well, they still need help at center, help on defense. But the reality is with Tuukka signing for cheap, they have that flexibility still, and they can perhaps, move DeBrusk for futures, use that cap space to get somebody else. There's a lot that can happen between now and the trade deadline, and we know that Don Sweeney is active prior to and at the trade deadline, so I would expect that there still will be some tweaks. But the lineup performing at a very high level right now, 7-1 in 2022. They have amassed the most points among all NHL teams so far this year. They have played the most games. When it comes to point percentage, the Bruins are 4th in the NHL in 2022, behind the New York Islanders, who are 2-0, the Avalanche, who are 5-0-1, and the Panthers, who are 4-0-1. The Bruins have scored 36 goals, and a bunch of those have been scored by David Pastrnak, who we'll talk about here in a moment. But first, a quick word about Built Bar. It's the new year. That means New Year's resolutions. If yours is about getting fit or eating healthier, make sure you include Built Bar in your plan. It's the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar, maybe even better than a candy bar. Built Bar makes it easier to stick to your resolution because it tastes so good, you'll want to eat it. Unlike other protein bars, which can be chalky or waxy or taste like a chemical spill, Built Bars are covered in 100% chocolate. They contain about 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, 17 grams of protein. Compare that to a candy bar, which is around 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, so many net carbs. And there's so many flavors to choose from. Coconut almond, peanut butter brownie, raspberry, cookies and cream among them. Built is always coming out with new limited time flavors as well, so check the website often to see what's new. Go to Built.com, use promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your order. That's promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. Thank you so much again for making Locked On Boston Bruins your first listen every day. Again, free and available on all podcast platforms, as well as on YouTube. So please smash that subscribe button if you have not already, and tell some Bruins fans in your life about the podcast as well. Now, at the other end of the ice, the offense was brought by David Pastrnak, who continues a crazy stretch of offense. It was Brad Marchand who picked up the hat trick on Wednesday in the win over Montreal, and it was Pastrnak who recorded the hat trick here on Thursday evening against the Flyers. The first time the Bruins have had players record hat tricks back-to-back games since Sergei Samsonov and Steve Hines back in 1998. Pastrnak, always the humble one, looking to credit his teammates. He said he was so happy to have Tuukka Rask back. You have no idea. And he said he was ready to leave it all out there for him. He told him he was going to get a hat trick before the game. Rask didn't believe him. And again, it's really good to have him back. One of my closest friends, Pastrnak, said, and I missed him, obviously. He was outstanding. The saves he made, great to have him back. And, he said he could sit there for 50 minutes talking about him. Such high praise for him. I mentioned the Bruins have scored 36 goals in 2022. 8 of those have been scored by David Pastrnak, doubling his total for the season. He had 8 goals in all of 2021 part of this season. From, the beginning of the season until December 31st. He's got 8 since the turn of the calendar. And, just amazing to see him finally getting hot. We all know what happened in the offseason, the personal trauma that he experienced early on the season. He did not look the same, but it appears as though he is back, and it's amazing to see him scoring again with a smile on his face. It does all of our hearts well to see that. He said of the second line, new look second line of Taylor Hall, Eric Haula, and David Pastrnak. He said we get better every game. Didn't have much practice lately because of all the games coming up. So pretty much the game is where they need to connect. Today they had some good looks. Still some things to work on as a line, but the important thing is they need to communicate together. And Bruce Cassidy, of course, said he's looked really good recently for sure. Looks like he's turned the corner. Sometimes that's what happens with goal scorers. One goes in and they just, have a little bit of weight off their shoulders. He may have been going through that, but certainly tonight it looked like he could have had 5 or 6 goals. So the Bruins enjoy those nights when they come up. He certainly did. Pastrnak was out there at the end trying to help preserve a lead as well. The Bruins trust him away from the puck. Tonight was his night. The puck was finding him. Great to see. Needed all 3 of those goals, obviously. Hopefully he's back feeling great about his game, because it sure looks like his game is in order. We want to make sure it's a longer sample size, but the last 3 or 4 games, he's certainly been on it. And again, the Bruins certainly need Pastrnak to be playing at the highest level in order to succeed. And right now in 2022, he is tied with Brad Marchand for the most goals around the NHL. 8 goals in 8 games. You could push it even tighter. He has 8 goals in 6 games, 9 points total, 1 assist to his credit. Marchand leading the league in scoring in 2022 with 14 points in 8 games. Again, the Bruins have played the most games around the NHL, so obviously that will bring their totals up, but they're getting the job done, certainly. Still 8th in the Eastern Conference, locking down that second wild card spot. But Pittsburgh within catching distance. They're 3 points back of the Penguins with 2 games in hand. They're also 5 points back of the Toronto Maple Leafs for 3rd in the Atlantic with only 1 game in hand on Toronto at the moment. do you want to get into the third Atlantic spot and face either Florida or Tampa Bay in the first round? That's debatable, but that's a conversation for another day. For right now, the Bruins are certainly rolling, and it's amazing to see. They'll have to keep it going against some tougher opponents here over the next week. They will host the Nashville Predators on Saturday afternoon, get a couple of days off, and then we'll be hosting the Carolina Hurricanes and the Washington Capitals next week as well. So 3 playoff teams coming up, and they certainly will not be able to rest on their success. Hopefully, they'll have some reinforcements back on the blue line. Derek Forbort, Connor Clifton have been in COVID-19 protocols for a bit. Forbort has actually been quarantining in Florida, unable to make the trip back after last week's game in Tampa Bay. Connor Clifton, I believe, Ubered from Washington to Boston. And then prior to yesterday's game, Matt Grzelcyk was added to the list, meaning the Bruins had to play Urho Vakanainen, who's looked pretty good so far. He was on the top pair last night with Charlie McAvoy. And then you had Tyler Lewington making his Bruins debut and Jack Ashawn in the lineup as well. So pretty impressive that they were able to lock things down with those 3 in the lineup. No disrespect to them, but that's not ideal. And hopefully at least 1, maybe 2 of those 3 guys on the COVID list will be back in time for Saturday's game against Nashville. BetOnline is your number 1 spot for all wagering action in 2022. It's a new year. They have a new updated desktop and mobile website, so you can sign up today and receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit by using promo code LOCKEDON. They have got you covered for the football playoffs, basketball, hockey, boxing, UFC, even some of your favorite Vegas casino games. So don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available this year at BetOnline, where the game starts. Again, use promo code LOCKEDON for that 50% welcome bonus. The NHL announced the All-Star rosters on Thursday as well. First of all, congratulations to Patrice Bergeron. He was named to the Atlantic Division squad, along with Drake Batherson of the Ottawa Senators, Jonathan Huberdeau of the Florida Panthers, Dylan Larkin of the Detroit Red Wings, Austin Matthews of the Toronto Maple Leafs, Nick Suzuki from the Montreal Canadiens, Rasmus Dahlin from the Buffalo Sabres, Victor Hedman, Tampa Bay Lightning, and then in net, you have Jack Campbell from the Leafs and Vasilevsky from the Lightning. Now, a couple things a little surprising here is that Patrice Bergeron was named to the squad ahead of Brad Marchand. Again, no disrespect to Bergeron. He's obviously well worthy of his 3rd All-Star selection, but the obvious choice for the Bruins here was Brad Marchand. He is one of the top scorers in the NHL, 41 points through 29 games, a 1.41 point per game average, and just about as good as anybody in the league right now, especially at the left side position. He wasn't even added to the last man in ballot, where Charlie McAvoy is on that ballot, so fill that up for him. Now, perhaps it has something to do with Marchand's reputation, the fact that he was suspended. Perhaps it was a kind of a legacy ad for Bergeron, seeing as it could be his last season, or he may not get many opportunities. It's also a case where there's representatives for every team, so you had to have Dylan Larkin included, Nick Suzuki, Rasmus Dahlin, Drake Batherson. These are all guys who are on bad teams in the Atlantic Division, but they want that representation. Batherson is worthy. Larkin, borderline. Suzuki not really having an all-star season, but they had to have somebody from each of those teams. So that kind of skews things. I could see a situation where Bergeron decides not to go. We've seen that in the past with Crosby, Ovechkin. It requires sitting out the first game back as a suspension, and perhaps Marchand will be the next man up for the Boston Bruins. He certainly belongs there. And again, no disrespect to Bergeron. I would imagine that he too would not be overly thrilled with having to go just to get that extra rest and all that. And then there's the whole COVID situation as well. Who knows if what happens around the league, if the game will actually be able to go on, but that's the plan at the moment. And it is scheduled for February 4th in Las Vegas. Sorry, that's the All-Star Skills Competition. The game will take place on February 5th in Vegas. I mentioned Matt Grzelcyk went into COVID protocols. He was joined by Kirby Dach, Dylan Strome of the Blackhawks, Alex Lafreniere, Paul Stastny. These are all guys who, find themselves in COVID protocols. So that's still a thing around the NHL. And again, hopefully it doesn't continue to disrupt the season for too long. I think that's it for today's episode, friends. I hope you're all having a great week. I appreciate all the support this week. We've had a great week on the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. Excited for tomorrow's game against the Predators. It will be a good measuring stick game against a team that is kind of playing above expectations this year. They're experiencing some rejuvenated play from the likes of Matt Duchene, Ryan Johansson. They obviously have a top-level goalie in UC Saros, a Norris caliber defenseman in Roman Josi. They currently lead the Central Division in points, and they are fourth when it comes to point percentage in that division as well. So not a team to be taken lightly. I'll be watching that tomorrow afternoon. I'm going to check out Yellow Jackets finally this weekend. Have yet to watch that, but always hearing good things. I finished Station 11 last night, which I very much recommend. It's took a bit to wrap my mind about getting into it because of the flu underlying storyline there, but very much worth watching as well. And excited for another weekend here in Ontario lockdown. Hopefully this is behind us soon. Hopefully you're all staying well, taking care of yourselves, taking care of each other. I wish you well. TGIF. Just try to relax this weekend, friends, and see you again on Monday with a brand new episode of Locked On Boston Bruins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your favorite team every single day.